Remember when Robinhood used to steal from the rich and give to the poor? It's Alice in Wonderland. And social media just proved once again its incredible power to turn everything upside down in a David against Goliath battle. The question is, who's going to win? Hey, everybody. Welcome to Rob Nelson Live, the Friday night interactive show. Love having you all engaged with me. We got a big one tonight. You know what GameStop is? Well, if you don't, you're about to. I mean, GameStop. Remember GameStop? The old, brick and mortar video game store was tanking. It was going down, Amazon was crushing it. Bye-bye GameStop, along with Bed Bath & Beyond. All the brick and mortar places in trouble because of the Amazon. It took a little boost back up, just a teeny boost during the pandemic because, hey, people started buying more video games. But hey, GameStop stock was way low. 2 weeks ago, $17 a share. GameStop was in trouble. Along came social media. So, Wall Street Bets, a Reddit forum. This one guy starts pushing people to play a little game with GameStop. So here's what happens. I can give you a quick picture on what went on. Wall Street hedge funds like to take stocks like GameStop that are doing real bad, and they like to what's called short sell them. So basically they borrow the stock. It's not theirs. They borrow it, they sell it at the low price, and then they buy it back later at a lower price and keep the difference between the sale of what they didn't have, which is a little higher, and the smaller amount that they buy it back for. They pocket the difference. Now, you do that with a huge volume, you make tons and tons of money. It's called short selling. It serves absolutely no purpose in the financial markets. It does nothing to benefit us, nothing to benefit the economy. It's merely a way for investors, big investors, to make tons and tons of money. And they do it all the time. Except Wall Street Bets said, hey, one guy on Reddit said, hey, let's change this up. Let's everybody buy GameStop. Go crazy. Just buy it. It's cheap. Buy. Which they did. They started buying GameStop like crazy, which started creating a cycle where the investors, because huge numbers of people on Reddit started buying. So suddenly the hedge fund investors were in trouble. They had to wait a minute. Wait. We don't have this stock. We borrowed it and sold it because it was going to go down. Now it's going up, and they had to start trying to buy back their stock that they borrowed to sell and short sell to make money. So the price went up and up and up and up and up. GameStop literally overnight went from $17 a share to $347 a share, like a 2,000% increase. Wall Street hedge funds got effed big time. I mean, we're talking again, a 2,000% increase. And the hedge funds were like, wait. They were losing billions, literally billions of dollars. And the Reddit community just kept driving it. Social media just driving the train to force this up. And by the way, all these small investors now have stock that kept going up. So they started buying when it was $17, $18, $19, $20. Suddenly they, making fortunes. Little guy making a fortune. Sounds like a really nice story, right? Except, what do you think happened next? Yeah. Well, what happened next is the hedge funds were like, somebody's got to fix this. And a little company that was founded to help the little guy called Robinhood, stealing from the rich to give to the poor, stepped in and stopped people from being able to trade, stopped people from being able to buy, stopped these tons of small investors from being able to get it. so that the price would start coming down. And so I want to there's so much going on with this. Elon Musk put a tweet out. Crafty, pop that tweet up, because the whole idea of short selling is, like I said, it really serves no purpose other than to make money for people making money. He said, you can't sell houses you don't own. You can't sell cars you don't own, but you can sell stock you don't own. This is BS. Shorting is a scam, legal only for vestigial reasons. That's a big ass word. Point is, think about it. You can't sell something you don't have, but short selling you do. You borrow something you don't have, you sell it. You sell it at a low price. You know it's going to go down. You wait for it to go down. You buy it back and you keep the difference. Serves no purpose except to make lots and lots and lots and lots of money for Wall Street. And you know, at first, this was just Wall Street against the little guy until Robinhood jumped in and decided they were going to stop the little guy on their own platform, designed for the little guy, from making money. So why? And the bigger picture to all this, because what happens next is really, really, really scary. But first, because the first piece is scary, Robinhood doing this. So I picked on Chris Cuomo a lot, but Chris Cuomo, when he wants to be, can be a heck of a good journalist and a heck of a tough questioner. So this is Chris Cuomo interviewing the guy who started Robinhood about why he shut down the platform. Because remember, they said, oh, we had to do this because the market was going crazy. We had to enter in and stabilize. Of course, they always do everything for our benefit. Let's play this Cuomo interview, just a snippet of it.
We had to make a very difficult decision to protect our customers and our firm.
Why?
But we in no way
why? Explain why you had to do it if it wasn't to protect the guys who had shorted the stocks, which are the big hedge funds. How are you helping the little guy investors? Why should people believe you did this for the right reasons?
Well, we have no choice. We have to comply with all financial requirements. And
the SEC hasn't said you had to do this. But then why did you allow people to keep selling but not buying? The reason that is so troubling to people is that they were making money buying the stock because they were against the short side. And so by enabling them to sell but not buy, it sounds like you were allowing the hedge funds. And again, one of them owns a piece of you and they had a big short position. And that looks like a stinky conflict that you didn't come out straight on from the start. Address that.
Well, none of that had anything to do with our decision to do this. Again, this was just looking at regulatory requirements, financial requirements.
Okay, of course. None of this had anything to do with that. These people just blatantly lie. This guy is basically saying, we had to do this. We had to do this to protect our deposit levels. We were taking care of the little guy, the little consumer. Good for Chris Cuomo for going after him and being like, well, wait a minute. The SEC didn't say you had to do that. Guy didn't respond to that. But here's the thing, and here's the hidden thread in all of it. He's saying, blatantly lying and saying, we had to do this. We had no choice. We didn't do this to protect the hedge fund, which, as Chris Cuomo points out, one major hedge fund losing tons of money was a major investor in Robinhood. No, we did it because we had to protect. We had to protect against our deposit levels. Here's the interesting thing in securities, okay? One, Robinhood doesn't control the listing for GameStop. The New York Stock Exchange does. They're the one that has the power, if they want to put a hold on something. Robinhood shouldn't have that power. Robinhood doesn't control the stock listing for GameStop. And the New York Stock Exchange only puts holds on various stocks when one of two things happen. There's either fraud, or they believe the company is withholding material information that would make investors' decisions radically different. If they think one of those two things is happening, you're not telling people something you should tell them, or you are committing fraud, we will put some kind of holds on your trading. That's the stock exchange who controls that listing, that company's stock listing. Robinhood doesn't. Robinhood's CEO is full of shit. He is literally just BSing. He is telling people we had to do this. What he's really doing was protecting his hedge fund investors, claiming he wasn't, but he absolutely was. And again, stopped people not from selling it, but from buying it. Because if they're selling it, it's going to help. It's going to push the price down. It's going to help the hedge funds. Buying it's what was screwing them, and buying it's how all these small investors were making money. So that seems pretty bad. It really does seem to, as Chris Cuomo put it, kind of, put a stink in the air about the whole thing. But it gets worse, because if you thought, and here's where I'm going to with all this, you guys, this is all going to come back around to big tech and the danger we have around what we've been talking about around censorship. And we're going to put a whole new spin on that, because what happened next is even scarier. What happened next is that the social media tech giants stepped in. Wait a minute, why would they step in? Why would the social media tech giants step in? Well, Facebook decided that what they should do is they should take down the group on Facebook. This was a Reddit thing, but Facebook had a group with 150,000 people that were essentially doing the same thing. They decided they should take down that discussion group, literally pull it down. We got two little, not clips, but two little blurbs to show you here on Facebook. Facebook took down a popular Wall Street discussion group, Robinhood stock traders, in a move that its founder on Thursday described as backlash for conversations booing shares of GameStop, Core, and other companies this week. And the second part of it is Alan Tran, who started it's from Chicago, created the group Robinhood Stock Traders, said he woke up to find a notification that Facebook had disabled its 157,000 member group. And the notification said the group violated policies on adult sexual exploitation. Are you kidding me? Guys, pay attention to what's happening here. Facebook takes down the group, Robinhood investors, that's having all the conversations, booing people, booing them up to be part of, the buy, and says you had adult sexual exploitation. I mean, literally, what are these guys going to come up with next? We don't have a legitimate reason to take it down, so we're just going to say you got porn on there. You're exploiting people. I mean, it's the most absurd thing you've ever heard. Yeah, well, yeah, Portnoy said Robinhood CEO just destroyed the business in a day. Absolutely. I mean, the power that he exercised in doing this. But again, guys, my bigger point is the tech giants. Because I've always gotten that Wall Street's never been on Main Street's side. It's that old line, Wall Street versus Main Street. Wall Street's never been about the little guy. Wall Street's, the average middle American person may have money in mutual funds and stuff like that. We all have a little bit in the stock market, but the Wall Street's always been about Wall Street. It's always been about the elite. It's always been about a small number making a ton of money, the 1%ers. It's never been about the average person. So I get that Wall Street was like, hey, you're messing with our little game where we make tons of money that doesn't do anybody any good except us. I get Wall Street fighting back. I get the CEO of Robinhood, who's really in bed with, look, one of his major investors for the platform for the little guy is a big old hedge fund. I get that when they were losing billions of dollars, they panicked and were like, hey, we got to stop this. But the tech companies, Facebook pulling the group down, what does Facebook have for this? Let's go one step further. Today, Google decided to take down, the IPO isn't going too well. Hey, monkey arms. So this goes farther, guys. Google decides today to take down 100,000 negative reviews on the Robinhood app. 100,000 negative views. Let me show you a little thing, a little blurb. Tech giants deletes 100,000 reviews as seen by 9 to 5 Google. First shared the tech news website. Now you think, oh, Rob's making this up. Google confirms to Verge that it combines human intelligence with machine learning to detect and enforce policy violations, which includes a policy that prohibits reviews written with the intent to manipulate an app's rating. Okay, everybody, think about this for a second. Google didn't deny it. They said, yes, we took down 100,000 negative reviews because we don't want to let reviews be up there that will influence an app's rating. Are you kidding me? First of all, what do you care? Secondly, That's the whole point of reviews. Every single successful app or unsuccessful app rides on reviews. If enough people hate your app, it's going to go down. If enough people like it, it's going to go up. That's how it works. Is Google pulling down all the apps that have been raised up and built into massive successes because people support them? And what about an app, a negative app? What about an app that did something we don't like? What about an app that went against our current woke social culture policy? Would Google have a problem if everybody hated on that app? What about an app started by some guy who was like a hardcore right-wing Trumper and had leanings that people didn't like? Do you think that would have they would have problem with negative reviews on that? But the whole idea that Google claims we pulled them down because we don't want reviews to influence an app, that's the whole point. And then Apple follows suit and pulls down reviews on the App Store. What does this sound like? Does this sound a little like Parler? Does this sound a little like what happened with Parler? We big tech platforms are simply going to pull the app down. Well, they didn't literally pull the app down. They just basically took all kinds of bad reviews down. They want Robinhood to succeed. Why do they want Robinhood to succeed? Why does Google care if Robinhood succeeds? This can't be about anything involving, social policy. It can't be about anything involving hate speech. It can't be about anything involving lack of inclusivity or insufficient diversity. This can't be about left versus right. What does Google care? Oh, well, I have the answer for you. It just turns out Crafty's got a little slideshow. It's a little video he took to show you we didn't make this up. This is a video this is from Robinhood's own pages. There's their story. There's their values. Oh, their values. We don't even need to read their values. We know what their values are. They're out there for the little guy. See all the nice pictures of the people. Yeah, here's our company perks. Oh, wait, our investors. Let me see. Sequoia, DST. Wait a minute. Is that the Google G I see? Is that the Google G? Well, there you have it. There's the Google G. So Google is an investor in Robinhood. We don't like to have negative reviews, or it's not negative reviews. We don't like to have people use reviews to influence an app, especially one that we invested in. This is our little baby. You all can't go trashing it. And if you go trashing it, we're going to take your negative reviews down on the grounds that you are using them to influence the success of the app, which is the whole purpose of reviews to begin with. And yes, it's deja vu. It's a version of what they did with Parler. And I'm coming around to all this. Brigading the reviews. Hey, absolutely. But hey, you know what? Like, whatever. That's what we want, right? Isn't that the whole point? I mean, we've been in a culture war where people pile up on what they don't like, and that seems to be okay when it comes to politics. I am all for people being able to pile up on what they don't like. I am not for the big companies, the big tech platforms deciding which of those pile-ups they're going to support and which they're not. Where's the White House in all this? Remember Joe Biden? And by the way, before I did this episode, I was getting ready to kind of go on a whole thing about how, I want Biden to succeed. And I do, by the way, and all this stuff that he could do. And, I said he's got a chance to step up and be a leader. But isn't he support the progressives? Isn't he for the little guy, the working man? Where the White House must be outraged right now at what's happening with Robinhood, right? Well, no, I'm a little sarcastic today. Here's the White House press secretary being repeatedly pestered about this, about why will they have a comment on what's going on with Robinhood and GameStop. And here is her artful dodge.
Listen to this. Jen Psaki, White House spokesperson, speaking just a few moments ago.
Our team is, of course, our economic team, including Secretary Yellen and others, are monitoring the situation. It's a good reminder, though, that the stock market isn't the only measure of the health of our economy.
Wait. First of all, let me get to the second part, the good reminder. We're monitoring it. You're monitoring the situation. That's your response? We're monitoring it? She kept saying it. She kept not. I mean, why aren't you condemning it? Why aren't you saying this is not okay? It's not okay that you are screwing the little guy investors for the big hedge funds. But Treasury Secretary Yellen is on it. She is monitoring it. Here's the only problem. Secretary Janet Yellen, these guys aren't progressives, y'all. They're not out there for the little guy. Janet Yellen made $800,000 in speaking fees from a hedge fund called Citadel. What do you care about Citadel? Citadel is one of two hedge funds that put in $3 billion to bail out Melvin Capital, the hedge fund that lost the most money on short selling GameStop. Melvin Capital short sold GameStop to the tune of losing $3 billion. Two buddy hedge funds came in, one of them, Citadel, and bailed them out. And Janet Yellen made almost $1 million in speaking fees from Citadel. Elizabeth Warren is questioning what happened and thinks we need to investigate whether what the Reddit people did was legal. What? Where's the progressives? Where's the outcry? They're not, and here's where I'm going with this. They're not on your side. I don't know why everybody keeps thinking that the tech companies, the government, but both political parties, why they think they're on your side. They're not on your side. They're on their side. The elites have always been on the side of the elites. They've always looked out for themselves. The hedge funds look out for the hedge funds. $3 billion bailout. Great. Why don't you go bail out some small American businesses on Main Street? You're quick to bail out your buddies in the financial sector. All these guys, both parties, they stock their cabinets. They stock the government with people who have deep ties. And on the financial side, the Treasury secretaries, all that, they have deep ties. The Federal Reserve, they have deep ties into keeping the powerful elite market structure in place. Tyler, you're wrong. Elizabeth Warren has come out and said that she is suspicious of what the Reddit users were doing. She's not gone on the populist progressive side. It's literally, it's literally like Juan Williams, who's a liberal on the 5 on Fox News, was kind of like, it's like we flipped the roles. Like you got Jesse Waters, who's a right-wing conservative, saying, how dare they stop these guys from making money? And you got Elizabeth Warren, who's supposed to be the progressive leader, going, I think these people are up to something. These people, meaning the Reddit people, not the Robinhood people, up to something no good. I mean, the roles are flipping because the elites protect the elites. And that's the problem that I have with all of this. So here's where this goes for me. And I gave Chris Cuomo a shout out because I'm impressed. I've said before, when Chris Cuomo wants to, he can be a hard ass interviewer, asks the tough questions, dig in. Where Chris Cuomo was not lately been very tough, including all of CNN, sort of skipping over this story, was the nursing home scandal. So, right? You heard about the nursing homes in New York? You heard about Cuomo dumping everybody in from the hospitals into the nursing homes, causing all kinds of COVID deaths, which he conveniently blames on the federal government. We follow their guidelines. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. We did what they told us to do. I don't know. You're the governor of the state. You decide you want to put a bunch of sick people from the hospitals into nursing homes with a disease that was spreading rapidly. You thought that was a good idea? I don't know. Take some responsibility. You got given an Emmy for great leadership. That's all right. He's never owned up to that. But now it turns out that they think nursing home deaths are 50% higher than the state reported. They don't think this is just an accident. And this isn't coming from Fox News or Newsmax or any other right-wing outlet. This is coming from the New York Attorney General, Letitia James. We got our little report right here that they did. This is the New York Attorney General, a Democrat, a liberal, Letitia James, and basically releases a report on the response to COVID-19. And in the report, basically what they conclude is that they think there was massive, corruption. They don't think it was an accident. Possibly a 50% underreporting of the number of deaths in nursing homes. And the report is investigating this, not because they think, again, it was some statistical error or some misreporting thing because of a system failure or just kind of negligence. They actually think it was criminal. They think it goes into the upper reaches of the New York government, into the upper reaches of the of the health department, of the governor's office, possibly the governor's staff. In other words, all right, we can take it down, Crafty. Thanks. In other words, the New York Attorney General is investigating why New York State, led by Governor Cuomo, covered up the number of deaths in nursing homes. CNN is silent about it. It's not even mentioned. You go through their feed. It's not mentioned anywhere in CNN.com. Nowhere. It hasn't been for the last couple days. Chris Cuomo didn't even bring it up. Whoop, mute, crickets. And this is where I have the problem. And this is where the selective reporting becomes so troubling to me. Because it's two sides to this, okay? And this part of it is about the tech, and part of this is about the media. When I rail on the media for selectively covering things, for selectively censoring things, look, I get it. No one's unbiased. It's a myth to pretend people are unbiased. And I don't expect journalists to be completely unbiased. That's not the point. Point isn't that they should be unbiased. It's that they should try to be objective, and they should be fair, and they should be comprehensive and even in their coverage, rather than selectively choosing what they want to cover and what they want to say is important. Now, there's always going to be a little some of it. Were those deaths not recorded anywhere? So no, they were recorded. They were recorded by the nursing homes. And again, I need to dig in deeper, but what the Attorney General's report, and again, it's an ongoing investigation, but what they are suggesting is that there was an active cover-up on the part of the state government. This isn't me saying this. This is the Attorney General of New York saying they believe there was a criminal attempt to cover up the data. And they think that it goes all the way up into the governor's office. Now, they're not accusing the governor of being part of it. They don't know. But they think it could reach as high up, certainly into his staff. My point is, it just looks bad. And when the press doesn't cover it and doesn't report on it, that's the problem. Again, I don't expect you to be unbiased. You can dislike things. You're a human being. I hate when they pick on reporters, even the New York Times, that like fires people for violating their tweet policy because they said, something that was biased against Trump. Come on, you're allowed to have a bias. Just own your bias. And in tweets, people do. I don't think they should be firing them because they have an opinion. They dumped the reporter because she said she got chills when Air Force One landed with Biden. So what? Why let her say that? She got chills. She's a human being. She's letting her bias out. I appreciate that. I appreciate she's psyched Biden's in and happy Trump's gone. It's not a shocker that she might think that. That's okay. But don't fudge reporting. Don't leave things out. Don't go back and change stories. Don't re-edit things. Don't take things out. Don't take negative stuff that you printed before out. Don't alter what you're doing. Why is that a problem? This comes back to the whole censorship issue. I'm not sure. They were reported, it's a matter of where they were attributed to, Monkey Arms. Maybe you might be right about that. But they clearly did not attribute them to the nursing homes, which is why I think they think part of the scandal part is because they were trying to downplay the number of deaths in nursing homes because it made Cuomo look really bad because he'd allowed the hospitals to put COVID-infected people back into nursing homes, which again, he's avoided, and the press has largely given him a pass on it. And his answer to it always is, it wasn't my fault. I was following what the federal government told me to do. I love it's not your fault. You're the governor. You're responsible. If stuff goes wrong, you're responsible. You can say I followed the guidance, but you think that everything the federal government told you under Trump was BS anyway. So I don't know why you're listening to him on this one. Again, I get that early on in COVID, no one quite knew what they were doing. Although this would seem to be a pretty obvious one, sticking a bunch of sick people into nursing homes with a disease that they had early on said was highly infectious and early on said was going to affect old people worse. Seems pretty dumb. Seems pretty common sense dumb. I don't know. If the federal government told you to do it, you might just be like, no, I don't do anything else you tell me to do that I don't agree with. Back to the press coverage part. It's the press coverage, the lack of fairness in the press coverage that really troubles me. And here's why. So again, and I want to get to how the internet became a possible way around that, okay? Because, so imagine like in sports. I love to get a sports analogy and I can't help myself. Super Bowl weekend's coming up, Kansas City Chiefs, you got Mahomes against Brady, the GOAT. Yes, I'll acknowledge he's the GOAT. The GOAT against, they took out my Packers. The GOAT against the up and comer, who, by the way, is a lot like Brett Favre, the old Brett Favre from the Packers. And think in football when the refs, now we know the refs have biases and they're human beings. We know in any sport the refs do. They always give, LeBron James always gets an easier, doesn't get a call that somebody else gets, or he does get a call that somebody else doesn't get because he's a superstar. He's got a relationship. Refs have biases. They're people too, and they're seeing with their own eyes. You can't expect them to be perfect. But in football, every single play in football, there's what's called holding. The guys line up the line, they smash at each other. And the joke is always, there's always holding. Somebody always holds somebody. They got their arms, they're not allowed to pull them back or put their arms certain things. There's always holding in football. The whole joke is when they call it. They only call it sometimes. And they couldn't call it every time. You'd have a penalty every single play. So in fairness to the refs, they try to call it when it's really obvious. Like when you're holding the guy and it means the running back is able to run right by him because he's being held. The tackle's being held. Okay. But the point is, if refs always, and as fans, you see this, when the refs call one way or the other, when people feel the refs are calling unfairly, they're calling penalties against one team and not against the other. They're calling pass interference on one team, but not on the other. If refs constantly called things inequitably, unfairly, people would stop trusting the refs. They'd just be like, I don't know if I believe you anymore. They already question them. And that's part of the process, to question the refs, to question the calls. You're going to question the calls that go against your team more than the other way. You're going to be like, yeah, it happened to them. That was fair. We should have gotten the penalty. It's your team. You're like, hey, we didn't do it. It's human nature. Nothing wrong with that. The press is human. I get that they're going to pick harder on a guy who literally said, I hate the press every single day. I don't expect the press to have been nice to Trump. He literally antagonized them on a daily basis. And with reason, they called him out on lots of lies. But the bias in coverage, and I'm stepping out of the politics, the bias in coverage, the selectiveness in coverage hurts the media. The media's credibility with the public is so low. And by lacking that credibility, we don't have a voice. It can be biased, but we don't have a voice people even trust. It's like you don't believe, depending on which side you're on, that the other side is, that the media on the one side or the other is telling you the truth. You don't believe you're getting all the information. Big tech is another issue altogether. With big tech coming in, I'm not bowing down to the GOAT, but he is the GOAT. With big tech coming in and doing what it's doing, think of it this way. The internet promised the true democratization of information. That's how I look at it, right? A real opportunity to democratize information and make it available, make it a free market in a way that controlled outlets couldn't do. Because you're going to have limited amounts of information. You're going to have limited amounts of what they'll put out, and their biases and their opinions will determine what they cover and don't cover and what they prioritize and don't. The internet allowed for a mass democratization of information, for us to be able to get information out that we want out and let the marketplace decide if people want to consume it. I put something out. If enough people like it, if enough people want to see it, if enough people want to push it, it goes. That was the beauty of the internet, of the open internet. The danger is when the tech companies start deciding who they're going to do. Agree with Krusman, if there's something there, hold them accountable. What a concept. I missed the Krusman point, so I'll get back to it later. I'm not sure what you're referring to, the hold them accountable. But again, I'm going 40,000 feet on this. Oh, you don't think it's anything? Krusman, I would challenge you on that again. And just in fairness, if there had been a story, I hate that it refers back to Trump, but he was the last president. If there was a story on something in Trump or a Republican, story on a Republican, and it had this much evidence, I don't think it would be a kind of thing where you'd be like, let's wait and see. And at a minimum, you're allowed to wait and see. The press isn't allowed to decide not to talk about it. This isn't some random person making up an accusation. This is the Attorney General of the state that Andrew Cuomo is the governor of, and it's a Democrat Attorney General who's releasing a report saying we think corruption goes to the highest levels. That's worth reporting. You can say, let's wait and see. That's fair. The press's job isn't to go, let's wait and see before we talk about it. Their job is to report that it happened, give it visibility, and question it, to dig in, to investigate, to find out if there's something something there. So it bothered me about the Hunter Biden thing. So it tore me up about it. It wasn't whether he did or didn't do something wrong. It's that there was an incredibly credible claim from a business partner, and the media just ignored it, and the social tech platforms went farther and silenced it, stomped it down, stopped people from being able to share it. And then it turned out the FBI was already investigating it. So it was an issue. I'm not looking to be the judge and jury and determine a verdict. I'm saying the press's job isn't to determine the verdict. It's to give us all the information and dig. When they do that selectively, it harms everyone. But big tech is even more dangerous because the democratization of the internet allowed for us all to have it. It allowed for us all to have it. I'm digressing. What's the corruption and the crime? The corruption is misreporting the deaths to make it look like it was lower than it was, to make it look like nursing home deaths were lower. That's the corruption. Come on. I mean, we all know around COVID, there's been so many accusations. There are accusations the Trump administration downplayed the number of deaths. You know, that wasn't okay. It's not okay when the other side does it. It's not okay. You're the state government. It's your job to report accurately. We're in a pandemic. And people are scared. It makes everyone doubt. It makes everyone doubt whether the next thing you say is true, whether the next fact you give is true, whether the science you give is true. When big tech, when big tech intervenes the way they're doing, they destroy the democratization of information. What are we so scared of, guys? This whole thing, this is what's always bothered me around the censorship thing, is like, and I know some of you have gone back and forth with me about what censorship is. The limiting of letting people have their ideas. You know, this country was founded on a healthy distrust of authority. And the internet was always a distrust of authority. It was a distrust of the institutions, a distrust of the powers that be, and an opportunity to create a way for us to move past it. So the whole idea of putting thoughts and ideas out there and letting us decide if we like them or not. We don't need to police people's things. Are you afraid that too many people will agree with a dumb idea? Well, what if it's a false idea? Are you afraid of that? Are you afraid that too many people might pick up on a dumb idea, like to stop the steal? That's what you're afraid of. Okay, fair enough. But that's part of the process. You don't get to decide. Tech companies don't get to decide which ideas they're going to decide are okay to carry around. You know, we have a court system, a legal system, right? And in our legal system, you go to trial. And when you go to trial, both sides present their case. The judge doesn't go, you're not allowed to present that because I think you're making that up. You can accuse me of a crime. I can say I didn't do it. I can say I wasn't there. And you can say he absolutely was. I saw him. The judge doesn't go, you know what, Rob, you can't say you weren't there. I can say whatever I want. I can even lie. I'm under oath. I'm not supposed to lie. But they can't stop me. They can say you're under oath. But I can make up whatever version of events I want to make my case. And the other side can do the same. And the jury, a jury of our peers, decides what they think the outcome is. And I've questioned our judicial system in that I don't know that our jury of your peers is really a jury of your peers. But that's just because there's only 9 people. But the reality is we built a system on the most punitive part, the criminal justice system, that said we don't have a judge, a magistrate who decides like England did. And one person doesn't get to decide the king's court, decide your fate. Your peers get to decide what they believe. That's the same thing with information. If people want to peddle wacky theories, like this Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia, I can't stand what she says. Everything she says disgusts me. Her calling out Parkland that it was a conspiracy, her insinuations of anti-Semitic insinuations that the Jewish people, they were behind. What is it? I don't even remember what she accused them of being behind that happened. Sorry, I lost that one. Harassing the kid, her QAnon theories, all of that. I don't agree with any of it. And it's wacky and it's unsettling. Some of it's disgusting. Some of it's offensive to me. But she's got a right to say it. And if enough people believe it, well, then we need to, we're in trouble. But that's the way the system works. You get to decide. We get to decide. I don't want someone else deciding for me. Do you? It's all good when they're deciding what you like. What if they start deciding what you don't like? We decide. Do you not trust people to decide? Do you not think people are smart enough? You're like smarter than they are? I mean, the whole notion that you can't trust a bunch of people to make a decision sounds very much like what some people on the right have said about voting. Can't trust people to just go out and vote. Well, you know, how the Republicans have always like tried to get fewer voters out there. As if more people come out to vote, they're going to be uninformed and they're just going to vote. Maybe they will be uninformed. So what? Everybody should get to vote. Again, I've said before, let's make voting a national holiday. Let's let people make it as easy as possible for people to vote. But that risk that you're going to have a lot of uninformed people voting, so what? Yes, if people peddle crazy ideas, you risk that a lot of people will buy into them. The answer is to counter them with better ideas, not to stop them from being out there. But when the tech platforms stop them from being out there, well, I'm going to agree with you and disagree with you, Cruson. I mean, corporations are the problem. Absolutely. But companies can't censor however they wish. And this is the problem. And I think I've said this before. If I haven't, I'll say it again. The problem with tech companies censoring, this whole notion they're private companies, they can censor what they want. Yes and no. Yes, they can. But then they don't get the benefit. They don't get the benefit of what you've heard is Section 230, which was designed in the Communications Act to protect tech companies' social platforms from liability. And that protection from liability, from being sued, was on the grounds that they claim to be an impartial carrier. They are not responsible for the content on their platforms. They are not controlling the content. Therefore, you can't sue them. That protection goes away if they now say, I'm responsible for the content on my platform. I will decide what content I think is okay in your best interest. I will censor or stop or control what I think is right. You are no longer just a publisher of information shielded from liability. You are now taking ownership of managing that content and deciding what's okay and not okay. At that point, you don't get the benefit of a shield of liability. So tear down the shield of liability and they'll get sued like crazy. They're getting it both ways. They're getting a protection that was designed to protect them on the grounds that they didn't interfere with content, and they're interfering with content and admitting that they're interfering with content because they say that's what they have to do. So they don't just get a free pass as corporations to be allowed to censor or do whatever they want. Secondly, I've said before, when you are a major infrastructure carrier, whether it's trains, whether it's planes, whether it's old school telephones, or whether it's the internet and social platforms, when you are major platforms like that in infrastructure, you don't get to just decide who you can do what to. Otherwise, again, could have had railroads deciding we're not going to service certain communities. You could have had telecom companies, AT&T, deciding we're going to unplug, we're going to disconnect the phone lines to people we don't like, to communities we don't like. That's a danger. And they said, no, you can't. You have a social responsibility to make it even and fair and allow everyone on it. That's my issue. Again, I'm a hardcore progressive, you guys. The real progressives, please stand up, I'm a populist progressive. I want the democratization of the internet. I want everyone to vote. I don't want big companies. And I agree with Cruson. Corporations are the problem. We've given corporations incredible power, and we've given them incredible perks. We've given them incredible benefits. And it frustrates me when people go, Biden's going to bring in socialism. Look, first of all, we have a form of socialism already for big companies. We have the government does all kinds of investments, makes all kinds of decisions to support and manipulate what it wants to support in the business world. The sad thing is Biden's not, if you're on the left, Biden's not going to bring in a whole lot of socialism. Biden's a moderate, a middle ground guy who's been in the Senate for 45 years or whatever, and he's surrounded his cabinet for the most part with people. Janet Yellen is not a progressive. She's an elite. She's part of that world. So was Elizabeth Warren. Remember back in the day, Elizabeth Warren sort of did a shift and became a progressive. And now the true colors are coming out, I guess, as she's, saying maybe the Reddit users are the problem. So I guess my whole point is, okay, all right, monkey arms, I'll give you a solution. So here's where I'm going with this. So my last thought before I hit the solution is the idea that the elites versus us, and they always say, right? They always say they're doing it for our benefit, right? That's the argument that governments have always made, left and right. The Chinese, remember? right? Mao in the old days, and always, it's always for the benefit of the people. And the right too. Putin does everything for the benefit of the people. Navalny, Alexei Navalny, the dissident who went back to Russia. God, I mean, what a brave guy. He's going back and he got locked up right away. And he's like thousands and thousands of people protesting for Navalny. And they've locked him up, and it's a kangaroo court, and he knows it. He said at the end of the thing, this hearing went just as I expected it would when I walked in, or whatever, some joke, like he's real sarcastic. But the protest can't happen. It's for your own benefit. Putin on the right, the Chinese on the left, they always tell you it's for your own benefit. That's why people got so upset around the COVID stuff when they were being told this is for your own benefit. And then you saw people like Gavin Newsom and other leaders violate their own rules. If those were for my own benefit, you're violating them. So I distrust that you're doing it for my benefit. So again, the idea that the elites always say it's for your benefit, and tech companies, big corporations, they're not out for my benefit. Facebook, Google do not care about me. They don't care about your social cause. They don't care about diversity, inclusiveness, all that stuff. I'm not saying people who work there don't. I'm saying they care about making money and having power. Same as the Democrats and Republicans in Congress and the Senate. Same as who's ever occupying the White House, whether it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump. They care about the elites, take care of the elites. So my solution is we the people, because remember, it was a government founded by the people, of the people, and for the people. Not by corporations for corporations, not by those in power for those in power. There was a healthy, strong distrust of centralized power, of what the crown did, of what England did, a desire to let people have freedom to make their own choices. The internet democratized that, gave us that opportunity, and we're wasting it. We're wasting it by allowing tech companies to do what they do and think they're doing it in our best interest, just because it happens to suit your political goals at the moment, because they're online with what you want. What GameStop proved is they're not just out to deal with protecting certain political values that they say are important. There'd be no reason to mess with what happened with GameStop if that were the case. If anything, this was not a right or left issue. They care about money and power. That's what the elites care about. So, monkey arms, what's my solution? I got a half solution. I think the first step of the solution is we absolutely have to commit, whatever our politics, to fighting to get tech companies under control, to no longer being okay with them yanking stuff down they don't like, to trust that people can make their own decisions. And if you don't like an idea, we will shout louder with a better idea. Not we will take your idea down and not let you have it. I think we all literally have to make a commitment in our lives to do it. I think there has to be a massive effort to stop tech companies from this unbridled control, because it is going to keep getting all of us. And there needs to be pressure on the Biden White House. Everybody's like cheering it on. Great. They need to step up. They should be all over this. They should be all over all this stuff. The true test of leadership is going to come when Biden, forget about calling for unity. Step up and lead. Take a stance on these things. Take a risk. And again, it's going to sound like a hokey solution to you, monkey arms, but maybe it won't. But to literally say what unity means right now is not you agree with me and I agree with you. It means we need to find some common things we can agree we want to do. Systemic changes, systemic reforms. We need to focus more on systemic reforms than we do on our ideological goals. And systemic reforms will include things like, whether it's a direct election, popular vote, whether it's term limits, things like that. Systemic reforms also include how we're going to deal with big companies, with big tech, with corporations. Systemic reforms include things we can do with Wall Street. There are underlying things that we have to address, because right now it is them against us. And I guess the first step is to realize that them includes these tech platforms, that them includes most of the apparatus of the government. They're not of the federal government. That most members of Congress, certainly most senators, and to a large degree, the White House, no matter who's occupying it, beholden to special interests. And that's where it starts. That's where we have to fight back. All right, we're running low on time. I want to let Crafty jump up for a second with me. Crafty's a techie, as you all know. Crafty, are you there? Are you hiding?
No,
there he
I'm
is.
not hiding.
There's Crafty. So, Crafty,
Not necessarily true. People
So
didn't abandon people didn't abandon AT&T in the 80s and 90s when it got regulated. That didn't happen.
I
People
think
still
that's a good
continue
point,
using
right?
phones. Yeah,
Right.
people
So
still
right.
continue using phones.
Right. So that to me, Monkey Arms, yeah, that's not a fair argument in that, you know, I'm not saying you're wrong that yes, if everyone abandoned them, but everyone's not going to abandon, like Crafty's saying, everyone's not going to abandon the infrastructure. There's a solution other than abandoning it, which is to control it, to regulate it, especially people on the left. The irony of this is that, you know, this is a call to regulate. You know, like you're all for regulating. Why don't you want to regulate these guys? Why do you want big tech to run wild? Why do you think they're serving your best interest when they're serving their own interest? And there are solutions, right, Crafty? There are ways that we could, you know, there are actual ways, right? I mean, you've been in tech for a long time, right? You're invested in these communities. You get down in the weeds with them.
Oh, my dad worked for AT&T during the deregulation. That completely was our life. If you lived in a family that was built by communication workers are like, or communication engineers were people who lived like, you know, during the MCI times, Alltel, Nortel, AT&T. Your whole life revolved for 5-8 years around the deregulation because the government came in, said AT&T, you're getting too big, and you had to break apart. That is really easily can be done and can be enforced by the government to Google.
Right.
To Apple, to YouTube, to Facebook, you know.
Crafty, real quickly before we run out of time, just what's your thought when you're in various tech communities online and stuff? Do you think there's a general consensus that fears that it's not left or right, that sort of fears the like, because techies have always been a little bit like on the like libertarian side, a little like, you know, that's like kind of fears the reach of big tech, that's starting to see how scary it is? Is that pop up a lot?
So I've noticed a shift, right? Now there's more hesitation, fear about what you say, what you put out there that didn't exist before. And now that we're all kind of like a multicultural, you know, friends or world, whatever you want to call it, I've actually seen, and I've asked, you know, people who live in India, in Singapore, and in Africa, and in Middle East, their thought processes are a little bit more conservative, only because they're afraid to, you know, to take steps out on social media.
I guess I'm asking,
didn't exist before.
I guess I'm asking, do you think there's a sense that like in tech that we're you know, look, I've said that we're at risk of damaging the open internet the way we're going.
Yeah, and I just put it in the comments. There's two specific examples. One is Apple. Apple has $2 trillion almost in the bank, and the United States government operates $4 trillion annually. What happens when Apple rivals the United States government?
Right.
Enron. The problem is we have these companies being run by people who worshipped Enron.
Right. I don't know what that means.
Monkey arms. Let's have a national strike.
Okay.
There has to be more, but yes, that would be a start.
Right.
You know, people need to talk about it universally. And Rob, real quick, I like the fact that this happened. You know, what happened with Robinhood is literally happening to everybody who's not an elite. So now everyone is suffering under, you know, being regulated. You're not being able to take certain actions. It doesn't matter if you're left or right. Remember how I told everyone on the show, you're opening Pandora's box? That's literally what's happening.
Right.
It's just not in the political sector. I said there are going to be ramifications that occur and happen that you won't be able to quantify. This is one of those actions literally 2 weeks later. You've literally opened Pandora's box when you apply no regulations onto a company that technically rivals how big the government was of the UK 200 years ago, 300 years ago.
Excellent.
That was my second example.
Thank you. So, Thank you for sharing, Crafty. No, I'm serious. Thank you. I'm going to wrap this up. Crafty's point, by the way, you guys, and I love when Crafty gets passionate like that, is Pandora's box. You remember when he said it? Pandora's box was opening. And again, if you think about what he's saying, these companies are bigger than many governments. They are starting to rival the size of, when they start to rival the size and the power they have, which will become greater than any state government already. When it starts matching the federal government, what then? We are creating a situation where a handful of companies, for-profit companies run by billionaires with a bottom line model to make money, will be in control. Don't for a second think that power doesn't corrupt. Power has always corrupted. Huey Long, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's a reality. Power and money corrupt. And if you let that corruption happen and you let these individual entities get that powerful, so maybe, yes, it is a national strike of some kind. Maybe we're going to have to think outside the box. I mean, here's the bottom line. The irony of all this is, again, I said it before, left or right. Remember McCarthyism? That was the right censoring people. Nixon trying to censor the New York Times when it was going to call him out. The right's done it too. It just happens right now. It's more coming from the left. But the difference now is it's not the right per se or the left per se. It's now also become these tech companies who are getting larger and a power larger and bigger than anything we've ever seen. And they have incredible control over the flow of information and over your life. And what Crafty called the Pandora's box. And this is what GameStop is showing. This had nothing to do with politics. This was people getting out there and making a buck the same way the hedge funds were doing. It was suddenly like, it just suddenly democratized. The social media figured out we can shut a business down. We can do this. Hey, we can actually all make money. We'll just go against the hedge fund short sellers. We do that in their little world up there and they short sell, and they make a fortune for no value to the economy. Let's just cut them off. Let's cut them off at the knees. Let's buy up on their short sell. Let's buy up on the stuff they borrowed that they didn't have and sold so that they could buy it back later and make a profit. And when people did that, what did they do? The Wall Street and the tech companies tried to shut them down. That should scare you. It should scare all of us because it's now reaching into every part of our lives. It is not just about politics. Never has been. It's about freedom. It's about freedom and it's about independence and autonomy and the ability to make our own choices. So if you care about your body, if you care about your economics being in your control, your finances, if you care about being able to have freedom to make choices you want to make on whatever side of the political spectrum you're on, you should care about this. And I am putting out a call to the progressives. I am a progressive. Some of you may go, what? But I am a true hardcore progressive. And I don't think you have to be on the left to be a progressive. Now, you can't be a certain kind of on the right to be a progressive, but a lot of progressives on the left are fake progressives in my book. Maybe I'm a centrist progressive, but I'm also a populist. And I'm for the little guy more than the big guy. And I distrust the authority. And I know we need some of it, but we need to put checks on it. And when big tech is becoming a bigger, more powerful authority than the government, we're all in a lot of trouble. I'm Rob Nelson. Thanks for watching.